It's that time. I don't know what time it is. It's,
Every few months or so.
well, just something kind of comes up and rings that. So we're talking about Guitar Center today, and we've been doing a lot of research and reading and talking to some employees, ex-employees, folks in the higher up chains, folks in the trenches that have been working, but really kind of going into the analytics of the financials and where Guitar Center stands now that the bankruptcy of 2020, I think it was November when it kind of closed out,
right.
December area, that is passed. And we are now and sort of start like where Guitar Center started to where it's at now, and if it has a place forward and what that place might be.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of fascinating once you start digging deep into it. The picture's not completely rosy as I was hoping, because I think Guitar Center has a place, or it always has had a place in our.
Right.
It's a great place for people to just go and try lots of stuff, and lots of towns that can't have small independent shops, and it's nice to have that. But unfortunately, the business model of America has changed.
Quite a bit, yes.
COVID has changed it too, but we're not going to use that as an excuse for Guitar Center's woes that happened. It's not all Guitar Center's faults, besides the business model. We'll get into that a little bit too. But let's start where Guitar Center formed. This is a funny fact. You know what the original name of Guitar Center was?
I'm not sure that I do.
It was Organ Center.
Organ Center.
So Guitar Center was not a guitar shop at all. It was an organ store. In 1959, Hollywood, Los Angeles, California, Organ Center. It opened up its original flagship store. It's hard to swallow that, right?
Organ Center.
That's just
I do remember, like when you get hired at Guitar Center and you watch the little thing. This is in there actually, but I'd forgotten.
Organ Center. So I mean, and that sort of struck me as funny. Just like is the first part is like, well, it came out as Organ Center in '59. Rock and roll was new. It was not seen as something that was going to be a permanent structure of our society.
Right.
Even Leo Fender was like, it's just a fad. Probably country, western, and Hawaiian music's going to be the jam.
Yeah.
And so, but this was kind of set up as a business to sell organs because that was in pianos, and then we switched over to Guitar Center a little bit later. But it morphed through the years, and it had a huge explosion in the '90s.
Right.
Is when it finally was like bam, it's everywhere. Stores opening. 100, 200 plus stores going, music and arts exploding. And then this last year of COVID was an explosion of sales across the board. Like everyone was selling more and more than had ever been done before.
Record years, yes.
Fender reported, I think, over $700 million in sales. That's almost 20%. I think it's right, 17% growth from the year prior, 2019.
Man. Huge.
They're on track for 2021 to do as much or possibly more.
Wow.
It's not slowing up any point. Now, Sweetwater sold almost 1,000 guitars a day at the peak of COVID.
Which is a lot of guitars.
It's insane.
Whew.
We had a banner year as well.
Yeah.
It was weird. Like we're like just like sweating. It's like how do we pack this guitar fast enough? It's just fun. It was weird. All of my other friends I would talk to, they were doing really well. Now Guitar Center didn't get to experience that same thing, but it's not just the business model. We'll get into that in a little bit too, but it's also what happened to Guitar Center back in their restructuring when Bain Capital, the private equity firm, came in and I like to say raided the coffers. It's a funny thing when this happens. Has anybody watched the movie Wall Street? Do you remember that movie with it's not Michael Keaton, it's Michael Douglas?
I don't know that I've ever watched it. I know which movie you're talking. I remember
Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
When Charlie Sheen was young.
Right.
But it's the whole idea of 80s Wall Street, the Bain Capital, a lot of these other sort of private investment firms. It used to be called like a corporate takeover or a hostile takeover. And it wasn't necessarily this, but it's when another firm that's really not involved in the music industry comes in. They bought them in 2008 for an outrageously high sum. So I'll have to get into some stats and figures here. Okay, so at the time of the buyout, when Bain came in, they're like, hey, we're going to buy these stocks, these shares here. So they bought them for 26% higher than the actual average stock price was.
Oh, wow.
So, and they bought them for the total share price was about $1.9 billion to buy ownership of Guitar Center. That's quite a bit.
That's a good chunk of money.
So now we're going to step back here a little bit. So at the time of the buyout, Guitar Center had about $200 million in debt and about $534 million in annual sales.
Okay.
And that's not a great debt to sale ratio. It should be that's not great to pay 26% over.
Right.
It's just sort of an odd thing. But they viewed Guitar Center as a unique business. It's not like a Walmart or a Sears.
Right.
It's unique. It's like it's going to have a place here forever.
Sure.
They weren't really sniffing out the Sweetwater thing at this point yet. And they got Musician's Friend. They're going to be dominant forever. Because as Derek and I were talking earlier, Musician's Friend was where we used to get all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Like Me Too, like him. And like Sweetwater wasn't even on my radar.
No.
Because that's where you go to get like the DAWs and the audio interfaces and like, the stuff for recording. That was like the nerdy world.
Right.
Musician's Friend was fun, rock and roll, guitars.
We're looking through the catalog, you get
even
the
online, it just
yeah.
felt like more, pow, colors. And then Guitar Center's website's always been trash. It's always. But and then Sweetwater started growing. But anyway, so here's where the tricks come in. So immediately after the buyout, Bain, they put a $650 million term loan on, a $375 million credit facility, and $750 million in notes. Saddled on top of what this company is. So it's almost like they use this as a vehicle to spread out more debts and loans and create interest. It becomes really complicated. But what they did was they created almost $1.8 billion of debt there.
Good Lord.
Which is funny because that's exactly the amount they paid.
Yes.
So they're going to try to equalize this somehow with a strange interest formula. But unfortunately, the crash of 2008 happened right here after this. So Bain bought this company and all their stores and all their debt and piled more debt on it right when this happened. At the worst economic time like that we'd had in decades. To an industry that couldn't really survive in the stomach because it's not a necessary industry. It's not, food, water, clothing, housing.
I am not an economist, but that seems bad. That sounds like not good in layman terms.
No, it's God, one of the articles I read. Well, if you haven't read it, like this is Eric Garland wrote an article in 2016, I believe. It's he's like a phenomenal economist. I was going to say economist. I can't.
Blah, blah, blah.
Economist, but he's a great writer. He works for a lot of companies hire him because he's just smart. And like he chose Guitar Center just to write an article in 2016, and it's an indictment on their entire business structure, their debt structure, their cost to profit ratio, and like I remember one of the quotes in the end, it was like, "There's no way this company will survive without bankruptcy into 2020," and this is in 2016. And that literally happened at the end of 2020. Yeah. It's just fun. He's not Eric Garland, the sci-fi writer, which I'm also a huge fan of. I wrote the Halo books. That's how much of a nerd I am. Because I was like, is it the same guy? He was also a great screenwriter for like Ex Machina, I think. A great sci-fi movie that won all sorts of awards. Different Eric Garland. I was super hoping it was the same person for years. And I would kid myself it was. But no, so it's a great article. Go back and read it. Just type in Eric Garland Guitar Center. Phenomenal article. There's new ones that have been written that are really good too, that are sort of covering the in-depth financials of it. And I've gone into some of those. I can't list them all. But it's one of the quotes was really weird. It's almost like it's a zombie walking that doesn't know it's dead yet and it's still bleeding because it can't, no matter how much it sells.
Right.
It can't service its debt. Yeah. It has so much of a debt burden on it. Like the guys working there don't understand the mechanisms behind that structure, and it's impossible to get out from under it. And it's almost like it's similar to like how Guitar Center might mirror the U.S. economy in some ways. How we are in such debt to China for so many things, or how we all mirror our own lives and we get into credit card debt.
Right.
And then before you know it, you're paying a 25% interest fee. And you just want to pay that. And you're not actually servicing the debt. You're servicing the interest because Guitar Center missed their $45 million interest payment is what sort of triggered the bankruptcy of the last time. They've done it twice in the past 10 years now. And so it's tricky. So 4 years ago, to go into like this, now we go into shop practices.
Right.
A little bit. So that's sort of like the economic burdens that they have. And like, that doesn't matter how brilliant the CEO is, how brilliant your managers are, how brilliant the staff is. You can't get out from that.
So
you're drowning in debt.
Right. So how long do you think realistically I mean, because we're not saying that like tomorrow guitar centers are going to close and be done. How long can they drag that out? Like, who knows?
I don't know. It's again, like, what I think is going to happen is it's gonna go on for a bit longer, and then there'll be another IPO, initial public offer. It can't be initial. It's just like another offering of more shares. What they've done to sort of offset some of this is in a debt for equity swap, where it's like, hey, I owe you $500. Instead of me paying you $500, I'll give you part of my company.
Right.
Okay. So now you own a percentage of this.
Of this failing company, great.
Yeah, but it's great if you can turn the company around. Like, look what Fender did in 1986 and 85. You know, they bought it for $3.5 million, and now they just did $700 million in sales in one year.
Yeah.
It's pretty. So it can, if you could pivot it, but that goes back to some of like I was getting into like some of the practices. Is it a tenable business structure for today? We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But I got into I looked at some of the contracts from 4 years ago. This is well after you worked there.
Right.
In like 2016 period, they were having all their staff had to sign a arbitration agreement, and they had to give up a lot of workers' rights, or they would be not renewed for their contracts.
Yeah.
So you'd be fired. And a lot of people say, no, that's not true. Like, it's definitely true. Like, I've seen the contracts.
I remember that happening, and I remember some of my friends having to sign those things, and it was just a strange thing.
And it's tough because like they don't want to, because they lost so much of their great staff.
Right.
Like, some of our friends who ended up working for some of the manufacturers we work with are ex-GC like top management folks, crushing it.
They used to have I mean, like a buddy texted me yesterday, just randomly, who was a fantastic GC employee, but he's not there anymore.
Well, that's the thing is like, it's not saying like they're not great there anymore, but they lost so much of their great blood. But
right.
We're so happy we got them at Fender and Taylor and Gibson and Martin. Like they matriculated over into the industry still, which was great. And we get their years of expertise, like the Guitar Center glory years of like the 90s, and like I hear the fun ones of the 80s, but like the 90s and 2000s, like before like the disaster.
Before it was quite so.
Well, it's like, and it's not, that's the whole thing, is it's not all Guitar Center's fault. It's like when you let these private equity firms, it's like when you let the wolf into your sheets, it's gonna eat you up.
Right.
It eats the hens out of the hen house. It eats your toes out of your blankets. And not all capitalism is bad, but this is a case where it wouldn't matter. I think Eric Garland said this, so I can't take it myself. It doesn't matter if Guitar Center is selling guitars, farm goods, or or if it's Lowe's, or if it's Bed Bath & Beyond.
Right.
It's the same idea. It's just a business meant to service its debt.
Right.
At this point, and the people working there are great people. Even he quoted that too. Like,
there are some,
there's a lot.
I mean, I have good friends who are fantastic managers, even
the ones that
Florida.
Spontaneously catch on fire.
Even those guys.
Those guys that are just like, oh my God, he's on fire. That's a long story. We'll get into that later, but we won't get into that on this video.
We'll not.
But now, so Aries Management. I'm sorry, not because Bain Capital. Aries Management. Always like sort of like sounds very Greek and like serious. Aries Management took over primary control of the company in 2014. They're trying to spin this. They've been doing the debt for equity swaps with other groups. It's tricky. It is. It's very similar. We did a story just recently on the Exit In, I know, about like venues going away, these equity firms coming in and buying things. And it is, again, like once you let these guys in, it's like The Sopranos. Who's watched The Sopranos? No, it's like it's that one episode when like the neighbor, the guy who played the Terminator, the T-1000, the bad Terminator, he owned the sporting store in Sopranos. And he got into bed with Tony a little bit, and like then Tony and his crew just liquidating his store, liquidating it like parcel by parcel. He's like, why'd you do this to me? And Tony looks at him and he's like, that's what I do. That's what these firms do. I mean, like they're trying to make a profit. Profit is the end goal. And if they have to sell it off parcel by parcel, eventually they will. Not even a second thought. They could care less about like, the people underneath. They could care less about the structure of Guitar Center as a whole. They don't care about the music industry as a whole. It's profit. And that's what it is. Right. And I don't want to be like the naysayer of like, boo to profit making, but there has to be, in the music business, there has to be a cap to it.
Yeah.
It has to be like love and heart and care. And we're hoping that there's a chance, but it's tough. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Do you see like GC being able to pull out of that debt somehow?
The problem, right, is that even the model of just going into a GC, I'm not saying it's dead or obsolete, but you get online, you go to Sweetwater, or you go to your favorite, Wildwood or somewhere, right?
Or casino guitars.
Casino guitars.
That's a great place to go.
But I mean, and even stuff that we don't have. If you need a DAW, or you need, software, or you need whatever cables. It used to be the most convenient way was to pop into Guitar Center and do that. I'm not sure that's true anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you need a cable or an interface or any of these basic peripherals, you don't need to go in store anymore.
Right.
The excuse is to go and have fun in the store, and we highly encourage that. That's what we love when people just come here to have fun and play.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy anything, just have a good time. We love it. People spend like hours. But like the idea, a lot of these shops are hours away.
Yeah.
Amazon's a click away, and I hate sending people there. Sweetwater's a click away. Or any of your favorite guitar shops, Wildwood Casino Guitars, Wilcut, Sims, Music Land Store, like all of them, like even Carlos with his, Carlos at Chuck Levin's he just had a salsa dance contest, and I think he came in third place over
job,
the weekend.
Carlos.
Congratulations to you, Carlos. We're proud of you. I don't know if he's wearing his little pistols this time. That's his little thing.
I hope he was.
Because he wears them in the shop. He's like, we got a sale. Yeah, we're making deals. We're closing. He's like,
that would be amazing. Like if every time they sold like over a certain number, he should shoot them in the air. That'd be fun.
I mean, I think he does something like that with caps, maybe. Or
I was going to say they should probably be blanks, but
that dude's awesome.
Either way,
he's like Robert Redford. If Robert Redford was not Robert Redford.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
No, but I think what you said, it is a different. The model has changed. Like
and I know you said we weren't going to blame COVID. Obviously, I'm not. But I think some of what in people's minds, like it is like you go to Guitar Center to have fun, to try things out, to see a bunch of things in one place.
I still do.
But for more than a year, you have not been able to do that. And I think that's we were talking about just with gigs. It's like people are conditioned right now. They leave early. Do you know what I mean? Because they've been going home early for so long. And so I think the same thing. No one's mindset right now is, let's just go down to Guitar Center, because you haven't been able to do that for a year.
Well, and I just talked to one of he's like a new friend of mine in England. I'm not going to say his name, but his nickname is Butters, which makes me happy as can be. I was like, Butters? I was like laughing. I was like, God, is that from South? I was like, it's from South Park, man. I'm like, oh my God. But he was just telling me that the guitar shops in England are just opening up this week, Monday. Like Anderton's Peach, like GAC, all the big shops are just opening up to public again. I think it might still be appointment, but it's been a year.
Yeah.
Like it's been a year. Like
people still call us and say, "Hey, are you guys open?"
Yes, because we're idiots.
Yes.
There's a force field right here. I promise.
That's true.
There's not. We're just kind of idiots, though. But yeah, we pretty much live together. Like, we don't have social lives, and we live together.
We mostly live together.
It's pretty pathetic. No, so again, like we backtrack back to Oregon Center's early days. It's not like the whole transition again. I think so much of this stems like there's a lot of like junk talks, and we're not talking junk on GC right here. We're talking math and figures. I think it comes down to when Bain Capital got into bed, and they got into bed with these things, and that the buyout, or let's call it what it is, the corporate takeover, the hostile takeover. When that happened, the end was forecast on the wall, and it will keep surviving. It'll keep getting like it'll get like debt for equity swaps. It'll get more like public offerings of shares, reducing the existing share prices. So if you're a share owner, that goes down. If you're a bond holder, which means if you own their debt, you will get put back in the layers a little bit more. That will continue until eventually it might have to do like a complete stop, cancel all the debt and reset and sell it to somebody else for a really low price. And then maybe they'll have a chance. I think maybe if it completely just bombs out again, I just don't know how you get out of the debt, because they had 10 straight quarters of growth.
Okay.
But they still couldn't get the debt like sort of cut down at all.
Right.
10 straight quarters before COVID hit. That's a long time.
That is a long time.
Like it's not like that's not just a day. It's years. So it's tricky. So I think it's going to need more restructuring. So I wouldn't buy stock in it. It's been downgraded by Moody's, which is a bond holder. So it's not the folks. They're brilliant folks at GC. I'm talking about the high ups too. There's some brilliant ones up there, not the owners of this debt or the mean people that did all this stuff, but the mean people that did all this. This is the bad people.
The mean people hurt me. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Just be careful who you get in bed with sometimes. And but hey, the guys who owned at that point, they came out like kings. If you own the shares in 2007 and 8 when this all went down, you're rich.
You're doing all right.
You are rich. You're
There
out.
you
You're
go.
done. You're paid. You're healed. You're good. It's the cats that hold the debt now.
Not
That
so
hold the
good.
bag. But let's let us know what you think. And if you're a finance person or like a CFP, like if you work in this, like I love hearing that stuff, and like we love hearing the communications between each other. It's fascinating. Like there's so many inner workings behind the scenes of just like it doesn't matter how many guitars you sell sometimes.
Right.
You could sell through the moon if you have that, and if you have that anchor holding you down. And like hats off to the cats that are really working hard to try to turn that around, because I think it's possible. I think it's possible. There's gonna have to, I know you're hesitant on that. You've worked in the trenches there. I have not.
I mean, for as good as any individual GC could be, at the end of the day, right? There's, like you said, there's something you just can't get out from under that corporate thing. It's just really hard.
I think that's the key to what you said. As good as any individual GC can be, if like we take the core GCs that are phenomenal, and there are some. There's like, let's just say there's 25 outstanding ones that are just like blow, and we've been to them.
Absolutely. Yes.
That just blow the doors off. Great staff, great shop, looks amazing, great feeling. You have to almost pare it down again.
Yeah.
And not just shut everything down, but just rethink. You don't have to have one in every small sort of region thinking to service it, because the internet is just taking that.
Right. True.
It's a thing.
There you go.
That's what I think. And I think there's a chance. I'm still hopeful, but I'm the eternal optimist. That's why I like Jane Austen books. I mean, I was going to say Jane Alexander. Who is that? Is that anybody? I don't know. It's probably, sorry, Jane Alexander, if you're out there watching.
I'm sure somewhere.
I do like I like happy. Yeah, every once in a while,
feel good.
Happy.
Good happy ending.
I'm ready to go see that movie Nobody, though. That looks amazing. Derek and I are so psyched for the theaters to open, because I just want to see Nobody. Better Call Saul guy.
It's gonna be cool.
In the John Wick world, maybe. It just seems like it. Heaven. I'm optimistic about that one in the theater soon.
Well, there you go. Let us know what you think in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinions or your insights. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Click that bell so you don't miss videos in the future. We'll see you next time.